If you can hear rain, I'm not gonna apologize. It's part of the ambiance, okay? Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Nat and this is Nat's Narrative, and today I'm going to be chatting with you guys about my 10 before the end. Now, if you aren't as obsessed with Bookstagram and Book Talk as I am, you might not know what that trend is, but it's basically a list of 10 books that I am hoping to read before the year ends. I've already talked about some of these books in my seasonal reset when I talked about my fall TBR, but there's also some Christmassy books that I am hoping to read before the year ends. By the way, if you see something there behind me, that is my cat taking a nap. I would not dare to disturb him, so he's joining us today. Okay, the first book on the list is Gallant by B.E. Schwab. I've actually had this book for almost 3 years now, and I just knew that I would love B.E. Schwab, and yet I kept procrastinating on reading any of her books. Why? I don't know. I torture myself like that a lot. But I finally started reading this book a few days ago, and I am currently on page 242, so I only have about 90 pages left, and I'm already predicting this to be a 5 star. Gallant is a YA dark fantasy following the main character. Her name is Olivia Pryor. She is 14 years old, I think, and an orphan, and she's been raised in this like school for girls, sort of, but it's basically just an orphanage. And the only thing she has to connect to her background or like her family is this journal who belonged to her mother. And the very last entry is actually a message or a letter to Olivia telling her that she's sorry that she had to abandon her, but also that it was the only way she could keep her safe. And also, she warns her never to go to Gallant. There are two things that I want to mention about Olivia. One is that she is mute, and even though she knows sign language, nobody in the orphanage has ever bothered to learn. And so she has trouble communicating herself with other people, has no friends. And the second thing is that she can see ghouls, so like spirits. So one day, Olivia receives a letter from an uncle she didn't even know she had, and he is telling her that he's been sending letters to a bunch of schools and orphanages for girls, hoping to find her and begging her to come back home to Gallant House. And even though her mom's letter very clearly warned her never to go there, she is unhappy where she is and she yearns for family and acceptance, so she ends up going. Gallant House and the setting kind of reminds me of Coraline, sort of. I haven't seen it since I was a child because it traumatized me and I've refused to rewatch. And a little bit like Stranger Things, definitely more like Stranger Things. So you have Gallant, the house, and it's this beautiful manor that is a little rundown. There's only two staff for the big house, so like obviously some things are not as shiny and new as they might have been once. But beyond the house, there is a beautiful garden full of life, and towards the back of this garden, there is a wall that is falling down, basically with a gate. Beyond the wall and the gate, there is the garden. Again, but different. All of the flowers are dead, everything is dark, and then the house is there and it's similar, but it's not. It's very clearly falling down, crumbling, really. And there is something very dark living within the halls of this second house. Anyway, that is Gallant. Like I said, I only have about 90 pages left, and I'm thinking I'm going to be finishing this first book in my 10 before the end list this weekend. The second book on the list is another one by B.E. Schwab, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I've had this book for even longer than Gallant, and I wasn't even planning to read it this season. I was actually thinking this was going to be in my maybes for winter, like early next year. However, the book club that I'm a part of picked this for November, so what a great excuse to completely, or not completely, but pretty heavily dive into B.E. Schwab. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is the story of this young woman in the 1700s who I believe is trying to get out of a marriage or something like that. And so she strikes a deal with some sort of entity. And the deal is that she's going to live forever. However, no one can remember her. Basically, anyone that she meets in this eternal life of hers, the next day, they forget about her. Except one day she runs into a man in a bookstore and he remembers her. The book club meeting is in a week, and I still have to finish Gallant, so I will probably only have about 6 or 5 days to read this. I do have a backup, and that is that I downloaded the book on Kindle Unlimited. I will probably judge once I have a couple days left before the meeting how far along I am and if I have to switch to the ebook to read faster, but very excited to read this. This next book is also on the Gothic side, and it is House of Roots and Ruin by Erin A. Craig. I actually did a reread of the first book back in October. I'll have that linked in the cards if you are interested in watching that. But that book is a dark and twisted retelling of the tale of the 12 dancing princesses. And it does follow one main character, so one of the sisters, Annalie. And it does read as a standalone, in my opinion. This book actually follows a different sister, one that I believe is the youngest. And forgive me, I know I just read the book, but there's 12 names. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm very excited to dive into this. I will probably end up reading this at the beginning of December. That is still spooky fall times for me. Sorry. But yeah, very excited to read this. After that, I'm hoping to read Threads That Bind by Kika Hatsupulu. It is a urban fantasy that is pulling or is influenced by Greek mythology, specifically the Three Fates. I've talked about this book twice on this channel, but I just want to read a little from the back. Descendants of the Fates are always born in threes. One to weave, one to draw, and one to cut the threads that connect people to the things they love and to life itself. So this is about three sisters. They have obviously the powers of the three fates from Greek mythology, and one of the sisters is actually a detective, and so she is investigating these murders that are happening in her city. And there is a bit of a soulmate romance in this, which I've previously stated how much I hated. But I did read one soulmate trope book back in September, and I didn't hate it that much. So I have high hopes for this one. If by some miracle I happen to finish that book in time for me to start and finish another physical book, I will be reading I Study in Drowning by Ava Reed, which is one of my favorite fantasy authors, or I guess dystopian as well. But I do have the ebook version of this waiting for me on Kindle Unlimited. So if I don't have the time to read the physical copy, I can just read that one and it's fine. I can just transfer annotations to this. This book also matches my nails. You see that? You see that? I simply cannot stay away from Gothic because this is that again. But there's fairies involved as far as I'm aware, uh, or something along those lines. Part historical fantasy, part rivals to lovers' romance, and part Gothic mystery. This feminist fairy tale has captivated readers with its haunting, dreamlike atmosphere. And here's the thing, I just love Ava Reed. There's just something about her books. It's like crack, honestly. I don't really need to know much about what this book is about. If I know that I like the author already, I prefer to just dive in. We are halfway down the list, and I don't own any physical copies of the rest of the books, so as per usual, I'm gonna put them here on the screen so that you can see them while I'm japping about them. Another book that is on my 10 before the end is The X Hex by Erin Sterling. I am enjoying myself so much with that book. It is so cute, so like Halloween core. It does feel like a rom-com from like the late 90s or early 2000s. It is funny, it is witty, it is, flirty, and I'm having so much fun with it. This story is about a witch who gets her heart broken by this man when she's 19 and she's in college. And so she gets drunk with her cousin, and in their, you know, tipsy state, they decide to curse him as like a joke, but it actually happens. However, because he left town before they cursed him, the curse doesn't actually activate until the next time he is in town, which happens to be 10 years later. His family actually founded this town, and so every 25 years or so, one member of the family has to go back to recharge the ley lines. So, what makes that place so good for magic? And this year, he has to go, and this is the first time in a decade that he goes back. As soon as he arrives within the town, bad luck follows him. Um, Almost dies twice. He even starts to think, did Vivi curse me? But he's like, nah, she wouldn't. She would. And then the worst happens. He goes to recharge the ley lines, and of course, most of that bad luck and like the curse transfers to the ley lines, which the magic all over town is, connected to these ley lines. So magic throughout the entire town goes haywire. So now Vivi and this man, I already forgot his name, they have to team up and get past, all of their baggage in order to find a way to break the curse and like recharge the ley lines properly and make things right. Like I said, I kind of abandoned this past week, but I am like 40% in, and I am very much looking forward to finishing it before the end. The next two books on my 10 before the end list are also romances, but these ones are Christmassy romances. I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe last year for book club, and let's just say it was mid for me. Okay, I give it 3 stars, I think, and I just thought it was, you know, whatever. It was well written. It was, what it promised to be. Like it delivered exactly what it was promising. It just, you know, it wasn't the book for me. However, I have decided that I'm going to give another one of Laurie Gilmore's books a chance, and it is a book within the series. It is The Christmas Story Farm, and really the only reason why I'm doing this, it's because I read that it's a reverse Grumpy Sunshine with the grumpy Grinch character being the girl. And you know what? I absolutely am so over Grumpy Sunshine when the man is the grumpy. I'm done. I used to be really into it. I'm not anymore. Like I said, the next book is also a Christmas romance. This one is called Confessions of a Christmas Holic by Joss Wood. And this one is also a reverse Grumpy Sunshine. It is. It is. Okay, I'm sorry. But I do love a Grinch character. And when it's a girl, amazing. Woman in male dominated fields. Love it. This one also has one of my other favorite tropes, which is single dad. I love a single parent in general. I've been asked before why I'm so into single parent trope. I was a child of a single parent, and the idea is just so lovely to me. Um, I don't know. I just want to be loved as a child of a single parent. Imagine if I just started crying right now. Okay. No, but I just love that trope. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, that was it for the ebooks. Now, the last two books are going to be audiobooks that I am most definitely going to listen to. It's not even a hope, it's gonna happen. The first one is The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. This is a historical, I don't know, fantasy. It's like a paranormal kind of, demons, possessions, that kind of stuff. But it happens in Mexico. I think post colonial, might be colonial era actually. And there's this girl, and she is betrothed to her best friend. They're gonna marry. They're not in love, they're friends, right? But they're gonna get married. And for some reason, she has to hide in his family's mines. I think there might be a plague or something like that. So she's gonna hide in the mines for some reason, okay? But she gets possessed by some entity while she's hanging out in these mines. And there is another person in there with her who happens to be the cousin of her betrothed, her friend. And yeah, he has to help her out and whatnot. I'm not talking about this book convincingly enough, okay? This is my most anticipated audiobook of the season. I've heard that if you like Silvia Moreno Garcia, you're gonna like Isabel Cañas. And I love Silvia Moreno Garcia. So I'm very excited for this audiobook, okay? I promise. And the last book in my 10 Before the End is Christmas Swap by Talia Samuels. I've had an eye on this book since the last Christmas season, but I've decided that this is the year that I'm going to be listening to it. This is a fake dating sapphic story. Okay, so the fake dating is between the main character, a girl, and her male best friend. I don't know why he needs a fake girlfriend, but he's going home to the holidays and he's bringing her along to pretend to be dating him. Um, but while they are there, his sister is a little suspicious of the relationship, and so she starts digging around, and sparks fly, blah blah blah, and a little romance, begins between the fake girlfriend and the sister. I think this book is going to be very fun. I used to be very into the fake dating kind of trope in romance before, but it kind of got boring after a while. This, however, is a nice twist. Like they're fake dating, but the romance is not between them anyway. And yeah, I love a sapphic romance. I love a sapphic Christmas romance. That Kristen Stewart movie. Oh, I forget the name of it, but I'm obsessed with it. So I'm very excited to listen to this book. Okay, everyone, these were my 10 books that I want to read before the end of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing me drop about them. And maybe I've convinced you to add them to your list of books that you want to read before 2025 comes to a close. Let me know if you've read any of these books down in the comments. I want to know your opinions without spoilers, please. If you want to see more from me, I am on Bookstagram and Book Talk. Also on Fable and Goodreads. I will be leaving the links down below for you if you want to follow me there. Please remember to like this video, and if you would like to see more videos like this one, you should subscribe to the channel. Please, and thank you. Thank you again for watching. I hope you had a good time, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!